Most people go to school to become employees, stands for E, employee. Or they become specialists, like social media guys. But where Rich Dad is different is that this is what you go to school for, become doctors or lawyers or accountants or pizza shop owners. But this is the B and the I side. This is big business, and this is a professional investor. Not stocks, not mutual funds, not ETFs, not 401ks, not that stuff. Professional investor. So the problem with most millennials, they went to school and they came out here, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
That's the problem. What Rich Dad does was shift you to think on this side. So the B and the I side, 500 employees or more, and professional investor, you want 401ks and stuff that's on this side. But you have the power with this thing to go over here. So my whole message is this, and this is all from my Rich Dad. This is called the BI triangle, B and I. To be a big business owner and investor, there's 8 steps to it. Number 1, you have to have a mission statement for your company. Number 2, got to have a team. Number 3, you have to have leadership. And now then you have product. Everybody says, oh, I got a great product. Well, product is the least important thing. Then you have to have legal. You have to patent all those contracts. Systems. A car, automobile is a system of systems. A computer is a system of systems. The human body is a system of systems. That's why you have a good team. You have the communication. This is the most powerful communication device ever. But most people use it to text and complain.
Yeah, check their social media accounts.
Yeah, grow up, you guys. And then here we have cash flow. Cash is either flowing in or flowing out. And this is leadership. So Shane is over here on the leadership side. He coordinates all these people with this thing. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
So you have the most powerful tool in history.
Need motivation?
Watch Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Robert Kiyosaki, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, get real education.
Let me say this before I begin, because we're talking about going to school or education, whatever that is to you. And education is more important than ever before. But the problem I have with school, traditional education, number 1 today is creating young people like you to be greatly in debt, right, with pension. Not pension, but
student loans.
Subprime student loans.
Yeah.
You got a subprime education. So education is more important than before, but what do they teach you about money? Nothing. So my point here is this: education is important, but the thing I don't like about labeling a child or a student ADD, okay? ADD is another word for extreme boredom. Why don't they just call it what it is? A child doesn't have ADD. The teacher is boring. They're boring, boring, boring people. Why would I listen to them? So I had ADD, but I call it acute boredom. Then they say you have dyslexia. Well, what the heck is that? I have dyslexia because I was sound asleep. I was always drooling. I couldn't believe how boring the teacher was. Yeah. On top of that, they were teaching me a subject I wasn't interested in. When I had calculus and trigonometry, I kept going, when am I going to use this stuff? So anyway, this is my point of view. Education is the only business that blames the customer for the teacher's incompetence. Let me say it again. Education is the only business where you're allowed to blame the customer for the teacher's incompetence. You see, in business, I can't do that. If my students are failing or my customers are failing, then I'm responsible for it. But how in the world can these teachers get away with blaming their customers for the teachers and education system's incompetence? And let me say this one more time. Education is more important than before, but what the heck are you learning? That you're stupid. I was called stupid so many times, I almost went nuts. I flunked out of high school twice when I was 15 and 17 because I can't write. And today, I've sold more books than most teachers ever will. It's in the millions of books. So who was stupid? That's the whole point here is this.
Rule number 3, study economics.
Become a professional investor. It's not easy. You got to study a lot. But this is what I see coming. Okay, it's a financial statement. It's the balance sheet. What I'm concerned about for the millennials, okay? So here we have M for millennials. It's a lot of you. But over here we have today, boom, baby boomers, me. And what's going to happen is that it's going to be the flow of people. These guys are, you guys going to flow over here, and you'll be producing the income to pay the taxes and all this. These guys are going to come over here. We're going to be the biggest liabilities you've ever seen. They estimate that, and nobody knows the real number, but the estimations are this bill for all the social programs, the welfare programs, all the Social Security, retirement plans, and all this is estimated to be $265 trillion. You guys are going to have to pay for that. So when old guys like me move over here and you guys take over the economy here, what's going to happen is, go up. You have to pay taxes to pay for these guys. So that's why when I speak to young people and all this, I kind of joke around a lot and things like this. But this is a massive, 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 massive social problem. You know, like if your mother and father had no money, what would you have to do? You have to pay for them, right?
Yeah.
Can you afford their health care right now?
I don't think so.
You know, like I cut my finger here 2 years ago. The bill was $34,000 for one stitch. $34,000. That's where this comes. They're estimating. They don't know how much this is going to be. Total, all the national debt and all this. And as we're talking, you know, they can't balance. They need to extend the budget to pay for our bills and all this. And it's only going to get worse. So when I speak to your generation, our generation had it really easy. We're going to cruise over here. You guys have had it pretty hard, and it's going to get worse, is my opinion. So that's why the idea of go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, put in a 401k. That was my generation. It didn't work for us, but you guys are going to try the same thing.
Rule number 4, invest intelligently.
So today you have most of these people who have a financial plan, and they want you to give them their money. You know, put your money in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETF, and savings. Okay, you know. And most of that money is gone anyway, as we talked about earlier. In the last 2 years of most people's lives, all that money disappears anyway. So what's the end game for Kim and I here? And for Kim and I, our end game is the end financial plan is this money goes into what's called a CRT, a charitable remainder trust. This charitable remainder trust then means the government can't tax me. That's the reason. And you know, and you got to study taxes. The only people that pay taxes are these people here because they're not doing what the government wants. Over here, I'm a partner with the government. The reason I get a tax break here is because I provide jobs. These guys don't provide jobs. I get a tax break here because I invest in real estate. Most people have a house. I have thousands of houses, and we provide housing. I provide oil, you know, so I get the tax breaks because the government's my partner. If you go to school and get a job over here, you will pay this tax. And you should, because you're not doing what the government wants. I do what the government wants. So at the end of our lives here, we're going to put it here into a CRT. And the goal is the government can't tax that money. And it goes out, and for Kim and I, our goal is every year we're going to give $100 million to charity every year. Most people will be broke at the end of their lives. So we're going to give all this money back. And for into perpetuity, charities that we support, like I'm very much into the oceans, so I support Greenpeace. Kim loves animals, so she supports animals. We support all these things that we can't do because we're working our businesses. So we give our money back to charities. We give it to Boys and Girls Clubs and other charities all over the world. $100 million for a lot of people, for a guy like Trump, not a lot of money. For us, it's a lot of money. So $100 million a year is our goal. Today, we're probably, if I died and Kim died today, it would probably be $25 million a year. But I have probably another 10 years, 20 years to live. So this is the ultimate goal. Kim has probably another 30 years. So can we make this? Most likely. And if we don't make it, we're still at 25 million today. But that's the end game here. We just give it back. And because we give it back, the government doesn't tax us. That's why I love the tax law.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5, focus on the things that matter.
As you know, we learn little to nothing in school, but in fact, you'll find out that going to school actually diminishes your ability to get rich. So that goes counter to what everybody tells you. You go to school, get a job, and you'll make money. And that worked probably 1,000 years ago. Not working today. It didn't work for me. I have a college degree, but I learned nothing about money. And what I've learned, I had to learn on my own from my rich dad. So we're going to be talking about school, making mistakes, and we're going to talk to you about cheating. Okay?
My favorite.
Yes, subject. Okay, so in school, what do you have to do to cheat?
I'd say finding a smart person in class and looking at their paper.
You see, when I was in school, the definition of cheating was I asked a smart girl like you. And that's how I got through school. I always sat next to the smartest girl in my class. And the teachers kept throwing me out because they said, you're cheating. But I'd go to my rich dad and he goes, that's not cheating, that's cooperation. And so I have my poor dad who would have said I was cheating, and my rich dad said I was cooperating. So there are 2 different points of view. Now there's this brand new book out, I'm having everybody in the company read it, it's called Big Potential. And it's by Sean Acor. Now, he's not a flunky like me. He was 12 years at Harvard as a teacher and all this stuff there, and he studied all these students. And he's the one that found out that the age of suicide is going down. Kids are committing suicide at a younger age, and depression went from age 28 to 14. And he said the reason is because how we teach kids. So all you school teachers out there, don't read this book because you're going to find out you're damaging kids. But worse than all, it's making it harder to get rich. Because what he talks about here in this is in school, they talk to you about the survival of the fittest, the A student. Were you an A student?
No.
I was not an A student either. I was a C student. And I found out that by cheating, I was actually preparing myself to do well in business.
Rule number 6, take risks.
The big thing about risk here is this. In school, they compensate for risk by telling you to memorize the right answer. So in other words, these kids leave, the young people like you, leave school thinking, oh, if I know the right answers, then there's no risk. And it drives old guys like me crazy. Because everybody's talking about millennials. What's wrong with them? Millennials are the most highly educated generation in history. They have the cell phone. They didn't get educated in school. They got educated on social media, on the cell phones. They know all the answers, but they're afraid of doing anything.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest complaint about my generation is millennials know all the answers, but they can't do anything. And the reason they can't do anything is because you might hurt somebody's feelings, you might make a mistake, you know, and that just keeps you guys just trapped in this little box here.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I think millennial money is such an important point here, because if you're going to come into my world, old guy's world, or the information age, you've really got to understand what is risky and what is not risky. And in my world, if you play it safe, that makes you stupid. Because if you don't take risks, you don't get smarter.
Yeah.
You know, so you may know the answer, but you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And one of the best things I had is I went to military school, then I went to flight school. I had such great teachers, you know. All of them could fly. You know, so my flight instructor could fly. What a novel idea. You know, a flight instructor can fly. But when I was in high school, most of my teachers were terrified. They're all cowards, you know, job security. Don't make mistakes. Just memorize the right answer and you'll be safe. And that's why most school teachers aren't rich.
Yeah.
And they teach that to your generation
Yeah.
today.
And most of them are teaching us things that they don't do on a daily basis. Like we have entrepreneurship classes
Oh!
and they're
Don't get me
not
started.
entrepreneurs, you know? So it's kind of frightening when you think we're relying on the school system.
Oh.
And the fact that they're teaching us, so the way to get through college, right, is practicing all the right answers, taking the exam, putting in all the right answers.
Yeah.
When in real life, that's the last thing that'll ever happen, right?
No. Like, you talk about fake, you know, this is my book, Fake here. Fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. The reason it's fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets is because it all has to be fake. You have to have fake teachers to understand fake money. Then you have to have fake assets to buy those stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, fake assets. But without fake teachers, fake money, you can't do it. So that's why I love working with on these programs here. Because if you're going to be successful, you've got to take some risk.
Yeah.
And when you take a risk, you make a mistake, and you might learn something, because we're supposed to learn from our mistakes. Look at Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer in the world, and one of the greatest athletes. He's made a lot of mistakes. You know, he would not be a great golfer sitting in a room listening to a teacher who never played golf tell Tiger how to be a golfer. And so, but Tiger, remember, don't take any risk. Don't pick up that putter. Don't pick up that driver. Don't hit something because you might go out of bounds. So don't take any risks. And that's why your generation is more screwed than my generation. You know what I mean?
And in class, we look up to the person that knows all the right answers. So really, it's just this mentality of having to be perfect and have this perfect intelligence
And know all the right
and know
answers.
all the right answers, when that's the person that'll probably be the least successful in life, because they're not willing to make these mistakes.
So let me say this again. Education is more important than before, but you got to be careful what you're learning. That's why I wrote the book, Fake Money, Fake Teachers, and Fake Assets. Don't listen to fake teachers. Yeah, I have a friend. He teaches entrepreneurship at UC Santa Barbara. And I call him up and I say, how in the world can you teach entrepreneurship? He says, well, I have a master's degree. I said, ask the question again. What gives you the right to teach your entrepreneurship? He says, I have a master's degree in entrepreneurship. And I say, hey, Doug, you and I have been friends for a long time. You've never started a business. You're a fake teacher. He goes, but I have all the answers. I said, yeah, but you don't know how to start a business. So that's why I do, again, what I do. Education is more important than before, but be careful. There's fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets in the world. Like some of the biggest fake teachers are those financial planners. They're telling you to save money. Why would you save money when the government's printing money? Then they tell you to invest for the long term in the stock market. And you guys know the stock market is ultra short term. There's high frequency trading. Today, long term is a split second. But they're telling you, guys like my generation, to keep your money in the stock market for 40 years and you have nothing left at the end of it. Then they tell you to save money. I go, what the heck's wrong with this?
Rule number 7, learn valuable skills.
The difference is when I left my high pay, so I got a job with Xerox. So that's the last job I ever had. So when you look at the cash flow quadrant here, ESBI, here I was, okay? And I was making a lot of money at Xerox.
Yeah.
I went to Xerox for one thing, not the money. I worked at Xerox because I had to learn how to sell. Because entrepreneurs have to learn how to sell. So I was preparing for this quadrant here.
Yeah.
But I was really preparing for the big business quadrant. So I took a job at Xerox for 4 years, so I was preparing for these two quadrants here. So when I talk to young people like you're here in social media,
Yeah.
you're learning the same thing I was learning at Xerox, except you're learning technology-wise.
Yeah.
It's very smart.
100%. That's exactly
Right.
what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And one thing I actually really do appreciate when I worked at the bank was that we were very sales orientated, and that's all that mattered. And I think that's where I got a lot of my sales skills too from.
Correct.
Like
Talking
it
to
was
people.
learning how to get rejected and finding a way to not get rejected next time.
Good. So the lesson to young people is don't take a job for the money, take a job for what you're learning.
Yeah.
And the harder, it was really hard because I didn't like, I'm actually a very shy person. So learning how to sell was the hardest thing I could do. But if I hadn't spent 4 years learning how to sell, I never made it here, I never made it here.
So the entire time that you were here, you were preparing to jump to the other quadrant.
Correct. So every job is not so much for the high-paying job with job security.
Yeah.
For not everybody. Most people should have job security because they're not designed to be entrepreneurs. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then you better take this job and say, well, which way am I going to go?
Yeah.
So I knew my job at Xerox was to go here and here and here,
Yeah.
not stay here. And I actually make so much money over here that I don't need job security, I need the money. So really that's the lesson. When you look at a job, you look at what can I learn more than how much can I make. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And if you look for a job where you can learn a lot, the harder the job, the better it is.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
And the sad thing today is there's guys my age, old guys, who should be retired, but they can't afford to retire. So they're going back looking for a job. Last night I was talking to this Vietnamese guy. He lost his job with a telecom company. He was a computer programmer. So the saddest thing, and this guy I meet, nice guy, probably a few years younger than me, he's now working 3 jobs because in his head, he was a high-paid executive with a telecom company, and he lost his job. The company's out of business. I won't mention his name.
Yeah.
But he still has go to school, get a job. It's still running his head here, rather than say, what can I learn? And today, it's really sad. I was having coffee yesterday, and this guy comes up to me. He's about my age. He says, can I come to your company and apply for a job? I said, man, you're as old as I am. But he says, I just don't want any problems. I just want the paycheck.
Rule number 8, stop being scared.
Most successful entrepreneurs have gone bust, right? Henry Ford, an old-time entrepreneur, he went bust 5 times. Okay, look at Steve Jobs. His own board fired him. Bill Gates was taken before the Supreme Court for monopolistic practices.
Right.
Even my friend Donald Trump went down $1 billion. I only went down $1 million. So the average person is so afraid of those losses, they never get ahead. Because at school they teach you if you make a mistake or if you fail, you're a failure. But that's not real life. A baby learns to walk by standing up and falling down, standing up and falling down. And our school system punishes you for making mistakes. That's why my poor dad, an academic, was so unsuccessful. He was terrified of making mistakes.
Rule number 9, don't live below your means.
Once again, is your generation, you got more fake to wade through and to figure out what's real. So today's millennial money is fake rich people. And from my world, I started with absolutely nothing. And I've run in my lifetime, some of the most dangerous people on earth are fake rich people. And in my world, which is money, how do you know if somebody giving you advice is real or fake? So they go back to you, because your generation is also called millennials, the bling generation, right?
Yeah, it's all about what you wear and how you act, and portraying this life of living our best lives. And so traveling, buying purses of name brands.
Well, how about these guys who have $500 sneakers on?
Yeah. And and like, I used to work at a bank, so you would see this person come in with this lavish car and this like their Gucci belt and their Valentino shoes, and had probably about $50 in the bank account. So it's like either they're knockoffs or you really don't know how to use your money.
Right. So one of the reasons you want to know about fake rich people is, I would say 95% of Americans are fake rich.
Yeah.
They may have, a nice big house, the Beamer, the whatever they
Yeah.
got, and all this. They might have the fake Rolex or the fake this on, but how much time does your generation talk about bling, like purses and stuff like that? And
I think we're in the generation where we fit perfectly with keeping up with the Jones. And so I think it's more important for an average millennial, how they look and this life that they appear to be living, than how financially healthy they actually are.
the problem with many people in my generation is they look rich, but they're fake rich. So the first thing that most guys or men and women buy is the big house. Mm-hmm. So these rock stars, football stars, they buy the big house. That's fake rich. Mm-hmm. Then they drive nice cars. And I have my Rolls sitting out here, I have my Ferraris. I love nice cars. And then they have a lot of bling.
Yeah.
But that's a very, very poor person. Mm-hmm. So the thing is, how does a young person know, especially if you're looking for a spouse or a partner and all this, and in business also? My biggest challenge in business was that I had a lot of business partners who were fake rich. Mm-hmm. They had nothing. But they lived in the big neighborhoods and all this. As one partner said to me, she says, "You only make $100,000 a year?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, and I went, "But the 100,000 came from the asset side." Mm-hmm. So 100,000 came from assets going into my income. And what they had is they had no assets. But her husband had the high-paying job.
Yeah.
And so their cash flow pattern went like this. Most went to taxes. And then they supplied this big house and all this.
Nice car.
And then they had their kids in private schools.
Yeah.
So when you're driving around the neighborhoods looking at so-called rich people, most of them aren't rich. They're actually one paycheck away from disaster. So if you talk to young men or young women, whatever you guys are into, is you want to talk about assets. So that's my wife and Kim and I talk about all the time, is our assets. Our minds, as I've said this before, is in the asset column. Yeah. The average person, the middle-class person, their mind's in the liability column. So as a young woman today, I strongly suggest keep your mind in the asset column. Mm-hmm. Because I know when I was your age, a lot of it was just handling expenses, right? Mm-hmm. Was to rent, food, clothing, just survival.
Medical bills,
right.
Everything.
And then the biggest mistake many young people make is they want a high-paying job. And the trouble with a high-paying job is most of them wind up here in the liability column. Mm-hmm.
But Robert, you have a Rolls Royce sitting outside and your Ferrari out here too, so what does that mean?
Well, I like the nice life too, mm-hmm. Okay? But this is the difference in financial IQ, financial intelligence. Because I think one of the most stupid things people say to young people, live below your means. Do you want to live below your means?
No.
Nobody wants to live below. I don't either.
Yeah.
So that's a poor person. Okay, so this is the difference, and why we have the Rich Dad Company, and why I wrote the book Fake, and Rich Dad created the cash flow game. It goes to this, okay? So here's my ruler. And I've had 6 Ferraris. I love nice cars. Again, this is my Paddock, and all this stuff. I love, and they're all real. I don't have a fake Rolls Royce out there. So the question is, how does somebody have this stuff? So that's what most of the so-called fake financial advisors will live below your means.
Yeah.
Well, look, sweetheart, I love my Rolls Royce, I love my Ferrari. I may be Japanese, but I look better in Ferraris and Toyotas, you know what I mean? So this live below your mean is fake advice. If you really want to have the nice things of life, focus again on assets.
Yeah.
So the deal I have with my wife, Kim, is I can have anything I want, but my asset must pay for that. So the rule of thumb that Kim and I have as a couple is that if I want a new Rolls Royce, a new Ferrari, new boat, anything, any liability, I buy the asset first, then it buys the Rolls Royce. So what's buying my Rolls Royce right now is I have apartment houses and golf courses. I just focus here, and I can have anything I want here. So for young millennials like you, focus here, or you can focus here. If you focus here, you can have anything you want.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is rely on yourself.
The reason I wrote fake is because it's about fake money.
Yeah.
So that was 1971. Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. What else Nixon did in 74, he opened the door to China. And today all the jobs left America. Another thing that Nixon did, he created the 401k, fake pension. So in the 1970s, when I was about your age, that's when the world was changing. So fake money, fake teachers. Did the teachers ever tell us that?
No, never.
And they still don't.
Yeah.
The teachers are such a waste of time. Their education is important, but what are they teaching you? So it's fake money, fake teachers, and fake assets. So the reason I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I wrote this book, Rich Dad's Prophecy, and fake, they're all saying the same thing, is, whether you went to college or not, this one thing is guaranteed. If we're lucky, we're going to get old.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, but your father tells a story of when he retired from the Navy. How much was his pension?
His pension was probably $50 a month.
$50 a month.
And he was paying for my grandparents' healthcare costs.
Right.
That wasn't even enough for a plate of food that day.
Yeah. So for the millennials, you guys, it's even worse because you probably won't have a pension.
Yeah.
Are you counting on Social Security?
Not at all, and I think many people are.
So look at this chart here. This is Social Security. It goes bust now. It's bust. Medicare is bust. One of the saddest things about America today is not only are we the biggest debtor nation in the world, but when I was your age, only 20% of our budget went to entitlements. Today in America, it's 75%. We have all of these people saying the government should take care of me, which leads to AOC and Elizabeth Warren and Comrade Sanders. They all want the government to take care of them, just as we're going bust. So that's why we created the Rich Dad Company, because it'll give somebody like you a chance. Your generation's toast, I hate to say that. And this is worldwide. Pensions are broke all over the world. I was just in Romania talking to these young guys who said, everybody stole all the money of our pensions. And that was in Rich Dad, in fake assets. They steal your money through your money and your assets. Yeah. It's a horrible, horrible thing.
Yeah, and we grew up with the sense of entitlement because that's what we've been taught as of today. And what really frightens me is that people still talk about their pensions, and soon are the parents, people who have parents who have been depending on this pension are soon going to find out it's not going to be there. And so, what's going to happen? Why is it that no one's talking about the fact that it's underfunded by $7 trillion?
It's actually 17 trillion.
17 trillion?
But worldwide, it's 77 trillion. So this pension problem is the biggest problem that faces the world. And the reason is our school system is complicit. You know, they're in cahoots with the banks.
Yeah.
So that's why I wrote Rich Dad's Prophecy in 2002. It was about a thing called the 401k. So again, that started back in 1970, again with Nixon and all this stuff. So when I was your age, there was a thing called the three-legged stool. And what they said was, for my generation, you would have savings, you would have Social Security, and you would have a pension, a 401k or something. Guess what? It's gone.
It's all wiped out.
Your generation doesn't have this even. Okay, that's the challenge. So that's why the Rich Dad Company was formed. Like I said, I wrote this in 2002, and I said the biggest crash was going to come in 2016. The reason it didn't come, because I started this book in 1999, I didn't see quantitative easing. I didn't see all this printing money coming. The irony is, you know, when I left school in the 60s, there was plenty of jobs, but the world has changed, and our schools haven't. And so they're still making this innate promise of get a job. And I was very fortunate when I graduated in '69. We're the highest paid graduates in the world. My classmates were making about $120,000 to $150,000 a year. That's not much money today, but 1969, that was a lot of money. But naturally, as young guys do, we spent every penny of it. So I had my Rich Dad's lesson, the rich don't work for money, in my head. I said, okay, I'm making all this money, I have a secure job, but what's beyond that? And that's where education comes in. So if I could explain this to you for the rest of the millennial lessons, it's really going to be on this theme here. Because financial education is about not working for money. Like one of the first questions, when I finally realized what my rich dad was saying, I said, well, when do I never need a paycheck again? See, my goal wasn't, you know, go to the moon or, you know, cure cancer. My job was, when would I never need a paycheck again? Because as long as you need a paycheck, be it from an employer or like my poor dad, he was so afraid of losing his government pension. And I'm going, Jesus, what a way to run your life. Your pension? So my old man kind of got fired. He lost his pension. It was the most frightening thing in the world to him. He had no pension. Then it was Social Security, which is even worse. So that's why my goal when I was about your age, a little older, around 25, I said, my goal is to never need a paycheck again from anybody, even the government. I don't want any Medicare, Social Security, or whatever. You know, when I was a military pilot, I said, oh, you got to get the military pilot pension. I said, you do, but I'm not going to. And just because of this here, that was the difference. Because I never wanted to work for money to need a paycheck. So the next few lessons in Millennial Money, you'll find out what I do work for. So for right now, just let me go to the lesson here. So this comes from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and these are some of the distinctions. It was the advantage I had at age 9, because I knew what I wanted to work for. And this here, in simple terms, is called a financial statement. In school, they teach you to get a FICO score. FICO is BS. All it means, how good are you paying your bills? That's all FICO means, okay? Should be the FIDO score. Good dog. So this is what your banker wants to see. So when I was 9 years old, playing Monopoly with my rich dad, this is the lesson that's not included in Monopoly, but rich dad taught me. And fundamentally, the problem that most people make, they go to school to get a job, and they work here. So this is the poor, middle class, and these guys. And we're going to talk about later, your first line item expense is taxes. You know, just recently, President Trump said he had a tax cut. He didn't have a tax cut for these guys. As you know, the rules are always written for the rich, okay? I didn't make the rules. You can get angry at me, but these are the rules. The rich make the rules. The golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules.
Yeah.
So the tax cut went to people here. That's where it goes to. You'll learn more about this later on. But this is what I work for. So what I work for, number one, is I'm an entrepreneur. I want businesses. I have multiple businesses. And I don't work in them, as you know, because you work here. You never see me, do you?
No.
Because I don't work for a paycheck.
Exactly.
Next is real estate. And real estate is good for many things which we'll go into, but number one is debt. I use a lot of debt to buy real estate, and I pay no taxes. That's the relationship there. The next is paper. And that's savings, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and that stuff. I don't have any of that stuff. I don't save money. I don't have any of that. But this is what most people have, go to school, get a job, get a 401k, and save money. Loser. Okay. I'm doing that just to upset you guys, because maybe you'll start to think. Because I didn't make the rules, I'm just telling you these are the rules. These people pay the highest taxes, and they work the hardest. And the last are commodities, 4 different asset classes. So commodities are, number one is gold, silver, oil, land, water, food. So this is what I work for. When I left school, rather than working for a paycheck and working for money, my education had to go beyond getting a job, which I had a good job. But I now had to start, when I left school, about your age, the thing I focused on first actually was commodities. So back in 1972, I started buying gold. And it was illegal for Americans to own gold. You can imagine that. Wow. Back in 72. Today you have Bitcoin. It's different. Okay. Everything is changing so rapidly today. So I started with gold, but actually the next thing was actually oil, because I went to school to be a tanker officer driving ships for Standard Oil. So I understand oil. So my wife and I don't own Standard Oil or Chevron or Exxon. We own oil wells. Again, taxes. You get no tax breaks for owning paper oil, huge tax breaks for owning real oil. Yeah. And then I went into real estate. Why? Because I can use debt to buy real estate. And because I use debt, I pay no taxes. And then third, I started my business, my first real business. I had many businesses as a kid, but my first real business was a nylon and Velcro surfer wallet business. And I went worldwide right away. The trouble is I was an idiot, and the business went up, and the business came down. What kept me alive was this and this. Okay. So you may say, well, aren't you working for money? But we'll go into that next. I don't want what's called a paycheck. I want cash flow. From here. So that's what I mean by the rich don't work for money. You want cash flow that pays very little taxes, and I can use lots of debt over here. The average person who went to school, their biggest liability they have is student loans, of course.
Yeah, of course, definitely.
I mean, it's horrible what they do to you guys today. You have student loan, which is the worst type of debt of all, because you cannot declare bankruptcy on it. No. And then you get out and you try and buy a house, and you call it an asset when it's really a liability. Why? Because the cash is flowing that way. Your house costs you money. You rent a house, it still costs you money. Okay? Then you have to have a nice car. I had one of those. This. So the problem with most young people is they go to school to get that job, then a lot of them have student loan debt, then they try and get married and buy a house, have a car, and then they have credit card debt, but they never have the chance to come over here. If they do any investing in America, it's a 401k, which I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. Now, you should, but I don't, because I don't have to. Because I went to school for here, and people who don't go to school should be here. This is a 401k, IRA, ETFs, and that stuff. Paper, savings. I don't touch that stuff, and we'll go into that later on. Yeah. Okay. So when I say rich don't work for money, I never wanted to be dependent on a paycheck, either from an employer or the government. I wanted to be a free human being. A lot of your generation are saying tax the rich. As they say, never happened, Joe. Because the tax laws need the rich to do what the government wants done. Their incentives. I provide housing, jobs, and food and energy. So that's what they should be teaching, but our schools will never teach that because they're fake teachers. Anything else? So that's kind of a review of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, thank God you gave that. I mean, even when you were talking about jobs, it's like, well, yeah, none of us would be here if it wasn't for you creating this company.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of curious as to why the government wouldn't want us to be creating more houses, more companies. Why aren't they making us learn this in school?
Well, because it's fake education. It's fake teachers. It's been going on for hundreds of years. And like I said, when the rich took over, there was Rockefellers, Carnegie, Mellon, and they said, they said, we don't need more entrepreneurs. We need more employees. So the purpose of American education is to create soldiers and employees, people who just do as they're told, but know nothing about money. There's three kinds of money today that you guys got to be aware of. One is God's money, and God's money is gold and silver. So this is silver, and this is gold. The reason I brought it is most people don't know what it looks like. And then there's government money, which is fiat currency, which is the dollar, the yen, the peso, the euro, the yuan.
Yeah.
Fake. And everybody's working hard for it. It's like eating fake food or drinking fake water. That's why people are getting sick financially, because they're working for fake money.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's fake assets, which was another part of the fake millennial, the fake generation series. But the reason I brought this here is most people haven't seen it. This here is real silver, plata. Okay. That's what it looks like. And so in 1972, and this here is gold.
Yeah.
This is God's money. This is what God's money looks like.
Yeah.
The reason I call it God's money is you can't fake it. You know, you can fake it with a fake ETF, like a gold ETF or a silver, which I don't touch because it smells as bad as the guys that printed that crap. You know what I mean? Jesus. But this is real money. So you look at this here. When I first started buying that, that was $1.40.
Yeah.
Today, that's $16. And this here is oro, gold. And the reason we brought it in is most people haven't seen or touched. This is real. This is God's money. Why did I say it's God's money? Because He was here when the earth was created.
Yeah.
And it'll be here when we're all dead and gone. When you're saving those fake dollars, this will still be here.
Yeah.
Or those fake ETFs or those fake stocks. Millennials are the most highly educated generation in history. They have the cell phone. They didn't get educated in school. They got educated on social media, on the cell phones. They know all the answers, but they're afraid of doing anything.
Yeah.
You know, the biggest complaint about my generation is millennials know all the answers, but they can't do anything. And the reason they can't do anything is because you might hurt somebody's feelings, you might make a mistake, you know, and that just keeps you guys just trapped in this little box here.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons I think millennial money is such an important point here, because if you're going to come into my world, old guy's world, or the information age, you've really got to understand what is risky and what is not risky. And in my world, if you play it safe, that makes you stupid. Because if you don't take risks, you don't get smarter.
Yeah.
You know, so you may know the answer, but you can't do anything.
Yeah.
And one of the best things I had is I went to military school, then I went to flight school. I had such great teachers, you know. All of them could fly. You know, so my flight instructor could fly. What a novel idea. You know, a flight instructor can fly. But when I was in high school, most of my teachers were terrified. They're all cowards, you know, job security. Don't make mistakes. Just memorize the right answer and you'll be safe. And that's why most school teachers aren't rich.
Yeah.
And they teach that to your generation.
Yeah.
One of the biggest mistakes, I still hear it today from young people, oh, I don't have to worry because I'm still
Young.
Yeah, and that is death to most people because eventually you get old and then you're not young again. So it's a way of saying, when I talk about assets and liabilities, one of the most important things you have in your life is time. It's one of your greatest assets, or it's your liability. And being, I just turned 70, and I have friends who have nothing. I mean, they have zero. Now they've made a lot of money, but they have nothing here. They have nice houses, nice cars, 16 wives, 19 kids. I don't know what they have, but you know what I mean? And being young is great, except it can be a liability to you. Because when you're young, you're just having a lot of fun and life's exciting, it's new. So, at the time, but the thing is, this is the lesson today, is so many people spend their time focusing here. They want to make a lot of money. And I can hear it in their words. They say, oh, I want a career. This is career. Okay, or I'm going to start my own business. And this is the chart here, which we've seen. This is the cash flow quadrant, book number 2. E is employee. S is small business, self-employed, or a specialist like a doctor, a lawyer, web designer. B is big business, 500 employees or more. And I is professional investor. So when I was your age, I knew I wanted to get here. This takes time. This is the hardest, This is where the big mega bucks are. And Kim and I are here. And the money is massive. But it takes time to get there. The big mistake I see young people make is they focus here. And the words are, I want to do what I love. That's the track. You see, in real life, sometimes you have to do what you hate. Like people think I like to write books. I hate writing books. But it fills my purpose in life. It's not my passion, my purpose in life. Because my purpose was to get here. A lot of these guys get trapped here doing what they love. And as we've talked about on earlier episodes of this thing, these guys pay the highest taxes. 40% here, 60% in taxes here, 20% here, and then 0% here. So when I was before my 20s, I knew I wanted to go there, and it wasn't doing what I loved. I had to learn what I didn't want to learn. I had sometimes to do what I hated. I had to learn about taxes. I had to learn about debt. I had to take classes. I had to learn about insurance. So I was doing a lot of things I hated doing so I could come over here. These guys never do this because they live their passion. I want my passion. The difference in passion is greedy, purpose is for other people. So my purpose was to come over here so I could serve more people. Okay. So I have employees here and all this. I don't buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds because as a professional investor, I can create my own assets. That's why I said when I saw that iPhone come out, I said, all you millennials or all you entrepreneurs out there, that cell phone is your lifeline out of this mess. Use it. So what we're doing today is anti-fragile. We're wartime leaders, and we're going to come out of this better. I don't know how, but it's called metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is like when a caterpillar turns into a butterfly. That's metamorphosis. And the definition of metamorphosis, you can look it up in the dictionary, is the transformation from an immature form to an adult form. Immature form to adult form. In other words, grow up. So for some of us, this crisis will grow up. We'll come out of it anti-fragile. We'll come out stronger. And that's why I've been watching my tweets. I say, the best teachers are on YouTube, not in school. Because most school teachers, and this is what Jordan Peterson is saying, he said, Jordan Peterson's being attacked by his own school teachers because they are pussies. They're all these guys, and they tenure, they need job security, they need protection. The world's a terrible place. Capitalists are crooks, and all this stuff. And it's a free country. You can listen to those guys if you want, or you can listen to Patrick McDavid. So your thing on the military leader versus the peacetime leader was prescient. It was one of the most important lessons everybody should look at. They have to ask yourself today, am I going to be a military leader and come out of this anti-fragile and stronger, better, healthier? Or am I going to be crushed by what Fuller called grunge, the gross universal cash heist? That's why in 1997, I created the cash flow, 96, created the cash flow board game. It's the only game that teaches you accounting by having fun. So the cash flow game, I play at least 10 times because each time you play, you're learning something new. Well, what the game is doing, because you have to move pieces and write and all this stuff, is moving your neural pathways. You have to train, the most important thing is change the neural pathways in your brain. And the brain is driven by your heart. And when I meet somebody with an employee's brain, they say, I want job security. I want a good pension. Does it have medical benefits? That's their brain. It's them. I can't help them. They got to rewire the brain, because the economy takes place between this year and this year. That's where the economy takes place, and in your heart and in your guts. I started playing Monopoly. I was 9 years old, and everybody's played Monopoly, except I played it in real life. 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel, tax-free. If you're really going to learn to be rich, you have to learn how to sell, how to use debt, and how not to pay taxes. That's the game. I encourage anybody listening to this or any entrepreneur, get to the point where you don't need money. It's called the infinite return. And that's my next book coming out next year.
Yeah.
When you get to the point where you don't need money, you're home free. You'll never need money. You don't care. You can always put a deal together. You can always create an asset out of nothing. It's like, I don't know what else. It's the power of God-given power. So like I said, when I write a book, I'm selling 50 copies, 50 licenses, day one. And let's say I get 10,000 a license. How much is that? 50 times 10,000? Is it 500,000?
50 times 10,000?
Yeah.
500,000.
Yeah. So I'm in the black immediately. What does it cost me? Maybe 10,000 to write a book? So I'm in the black. The same thing if I trade a stock. I would buy a stock at $1, it goes up to 10, and I sell. So I have all free trading stock. I have no money in it. That's what Buffett's doing. They're all infinite return guys.
Sure.
You have no money into the deal, and you can do it with anything. Today, if people complain, I don't make enough money in Romania. Well, you have a cell phone. You can make money all over the world. You can make money in dollars, yen, zlotnik, pesos. It's just limited thinking. If a person doesn't change what's inside their head, the actual thoughts running their brain, which are words, they'll never change. So the change begins when you question. Go to school, get a job, work hard, pay taxes, save money, get out of debt, and invest in the stock market. Until you question that one, nothing changes. It's a great time to be an entrepreneur because if you're smart, you have a good spirit, and you'll learn quickly. See, the greatest thing about entrepreneurs is how fast can you learn. When you look at the 7 deadly sins, the biggest tragedy is ego. So ego or vainglory is the road straight to hell. And so you got to, I tell you I made mistakes. I tell you I screwed up. I'm definitely not on the short list for saint. But you'd better be honest, and people trust you, and you better keep your word. You're only as good as your word.
Yeah.
So actions and words must be in integrity. What are you doing to make your money? So if I was selling drugs, that'd be a violation of my morals and my ethics. And then what do you do with your money? So when I was first starting off in real estate, I had to learn, how to inspect the property. So there's all different classes of real estate. So I started off in what they call trailers, those little mobile, they just tow them up there. Yep. I'm going in there and I go, here's this crappy ass trailer they're renting from this guy, but the guy's got a brand new Ford pickup outside. I'm going, I don't have a brand new Ford pickup. But you can always learn. The reason the guy's poor instead of owning or he could be doing the same thing I'm doing, but the reason he's poor, he's always trading in his pickup, because they'll give him, we'll give you extra money for your thing, just sign here and all this. They just keep getting into debt. And that's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I've created my cash flow board game and all this. Because, man, we don't teach people between assets and liabilities and income expenses and cash flow. We're poor anyway. It doesn't make a difference how much you make, because I have a lot of friends who look rich, you know what I mean? They got the Mercedes, got the roller, got the big house. But this COVID has blown them apart. They have no foundation. They look good. They dress nice. They wear the nice watches and the clothes. But they're now having to sell their properties because they can't afford it. You know what I'm talking about? So it's the same problem, It's just how you manage your money. I'm a writer. But I wouldn't be here if I didn't take the hard road. And the reason I couldn't write was because I was a surfer. Now, I love surfing, and I had dreams of someday becoming a professional surfer. And then it dawned on me that my friends were cool guys. They're good looking, they have great bodies, and they're all cool and drinking and smoking and having a good time. I didn't do any of that stuff. But they lack discipline. And that was the thing. I said, they have no discipline. They're cutting class or doing this, and where am I going to wind up if I follow them? So I kind of woke up and I realized I needed discipline. Now, discipline is not punishment, because there is punishment. You see, if you're not disciplined, the world will punish you. But also, you will punish yourself. Mm-hmm. So I kind of realized that, and that's why I applied for military school. Nobody thought I could get in because my grades were D's and F's, but I had high SAT scores. And so I went to a military school in New York, and I have found discipline. And then I joined the Marine Corps for more discipline. And then I became a pilot in Vietnam for more discipline. So when I meet most people today, and I'm the same way, we all want the easy road. Give me the easy answer. Think about entrepreneurs. You're not manual labor. So you're working with your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotions. You're just
Sure.
timing things, observing things. You have to have good friends, people you trust implicitly.
Yeah.
And I have fantastic staff. I trust them with, some of my people have been around me for 20 years. Some of my best partners are 40 years. And we trust each other. So that takes time.
How do you deal with critics? Do you have a go-to formula? How do you deal with that?
Again, Rich, I want to thank you for that. You and Rollo. I am not bullshitting you, because I don't need to do this. It's when you talk about chasing excellence and getting people into frame, and one of the things I used to do is I'd shine off people. Mm-hmm. They come up and talk to me about, well, thank you for the book. And now I don't do that. So people stop me and say, thank you for writing your book. I stay with them. My excellence is to be a better human being with them. Everybody that comes up to me. Because not that what's going to my head is I'm busy. And I don't have time for somebody to tell me how they made $10,000. I just go, whoa, I sit there, listen to them, but it's in everything I do. Can I be excellent at it? Can I be a better human being towards them? And that's what I'm saying. It's the word excellence is a mental word, but how do I convert it to action? And when I convert it to action, I change. Maria Montessori, the Montessori school system, she says, what the hand does, the mind remembers. But too many academics, they have good memory, but they can't do shit. Mm. That's my whole family, the great people, PhDs. I have one distant relative. He's 40 years old. He's living in the basement, and he's going for his second PhD. He can't find a job. I said, duh. Is God trying to tell you something?
Yeah, so just don't pay attention to that.
So what do?
You don't have any time to pay attention to haters if you're chasing excellence, right?
Well, there's a saying I have, don't teach pigs to sing. It wastes your time. It annoys the pig.
Yeah.
So I don't argue with them.
You've long advocated for investing in real estate as a source of income, one of the biggest premises of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Do you still suggest investing in real estate, in the real estate market now?
Absolutely. You want to invest in things that last. That's Jim Rickards. Invest in what lasts. But this is the key. Let me explain something. Behind me is my cash flow board game. There's 2 tracks on the board game. There's a rat race, which is a 401k guy. And then there's a fast track. That's a capitalist track. In other words, this is it here. Okay, so this is this is book 2 of the Rich Dad series, ESBI. So our schools teach us to be employees and self-employed like doctors, lawyers, and stuff like this. Capitalists teach people to be business owners or brand owners and investors. But the only way you get out of the rat race is via a thing called a financial statement. So if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and if you read Cash Flow Quadrant and you play the cash flow game, you have to have a financial statement. Your financial statement is what your banker wants to see. So when I go talk, I just borrowed $31 million a couple of weeks ago for a piece of property in Austin, Texas. If I didn't have a strong financial statement, I couldn't borrow $31 million. And so what's happening today is the poor middle class who went to school, they got their jobs and all this stuff, they're being wiped out, while the rich are getting richer because everything the Fed prints stays in the asset class, not the business class. I said this whole thing is, should you be an entrepreneur? Well, a lot has to do with what your family said about it. You know, my poor dad always said the rich were crooks. Entrepreneurs were crooks. The rich were greedy. School, all you had to do was have a college degree, you were set. Different cultures.
Yeah.
And I had to go against all this, especially respecting the father. It was really hard because I didn't like, I'm actually a very shy person. So learning how to sell was the hardest thing I could do. But if I hadn't spent 4 years learning how to sell, I never made it here, I never made it here.
So the entire time that you were here, you were preparing to jump to the other quadrant.
Correct. So every job is not so much for the high-paying job with job security. For not everybody. You know, most people should have job security because they're not designed to be entrepreneurs. But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then you better take this job and say, well, which way am I going to go? So I knew my job at Xerox was to go here and here and here, not stay here. And I actually make so much money over here that I don't need job security, I need the money. So really that's the lesson. When you look at a job, you look at what can I learn more than how much can I make. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And if you look for a job where you can learn a lot, the harder the job, the better it is.
Finally, one day I had this transformational event. I did a thing called EST, Earhart Seminars Training. Everybody did it, you know, and all this. And I sat in this room and I realized I was a liar. And I realized that's why I'd never be successful, because I could lie, cheat, and steal, and I was very good at it. And so I called up Captain Abrams, and I was living in Hawaii, in Waikiki. I was making a lot of money in real estate. And I called Captain Abrams, and I said, Captain, I'm coming in. He said, what do you mean you're coming in? I said, I'm going to come in. I will tell you what I know. He couldn't believe it. You know, I just realized if I didn't confess my sins, as a Catholic would say, I'd go to hell. You know, hell is not in hell. Hell is I live with my lying, cheating, stealing every day of my life. So I took the stand and he deposed me. I told him the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I told him every criminal event. They weren't really criminal, they were petty thieves. You know, I did stupid things like fly this, did this, you know. I machine gun goats from my helicopter. And I said, I did all this. At the end of it, 3.5 hours, I think I lost 20 pounds. And he said, I said to him, he says, Captain, because I'm going to go to jail. He says, no, just thank you for telling the truth. He gave me an honorable discharge. And it was one of the most profound, transformational, you know, metamorphosis. You go from an immature form to an adult form. I grew up. I said, holy mackerel, the truth will set you free. I understand that at a level that the average person will never know, because I had been such a scumbag, dishonest, disciplinary problem. And then, you know, like with my wife, I've never cheated on her. Most of my friends cheat on their wives, 70% do. But when I said I'd get married this time, I would not cheat on her. Marriage is still hard, but cheating makes it worse, if you know what I mean. So it's a matter of not trying to change the world out there. You know, the crisis is between this here and in your heart. And that's why being a military leader or wartime leader is important. It's about courage at this time. It's about being truthful, being forthright, being upright, being a stand-up guy. That's the difference today. And it's not about what the crooks are doing, it's what you're doing.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Ken Honda, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You have to have the right peaceful energy to attract happy money. And unless you do that, you attract unhappy money. So if you just buy gold out of fear,